Good morning, Vande Matram. We are going to have a brief discussion on aspiration is like an arrow. So that is the topic of discussion for this great morning. Aspiration is like an arrow. So the topic will be discussed solely on aspiration. Mostly we'll have a discussion from mother's writings and bearing few lines as introduction from Sri Aurobindo. Already we know. So simultaneously we use two terms. One is aspiration and second is desire. Most of the time we get confused and we take as if both the things are as if one term. But that there lies our problem. It is definitely not the single problem. It's not the same thing as quoted and explained by Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Of course, we know aspiration and desire is the completely different issue. Kamanar vinasi dukkhar vinas. Desire is the sole cause of all troubles, all suffering. So, Buddhism, you have turned for desire, it must be eradicated, it must be abolished, it must perish. So, for that also, we know aspiration is totally different things. For four things we normally aspire, that is for freedom, immortality, God, and light. So for those four terms we normally aspire, and bearing these four, whatever we seek for, we long for, that is coming under the banner of desire. So bearing these four, which are going to the aspiration side, and rest that is coming under desire level. So here we will have a brief discussion on aspiration. Aspiration is like an arrow. Before going for the discussion, and it will be discussed from the mother's writing, and before going for this topic, so let us have a few quotations exclusively from Sri Aurobindo. Aspiration, vigilant, constant, unceasing. So like this we have seen there must be an ardent aspiration, only aspire, that is the term, that is the call from the mother. So Sri Aurobindo also you have seen here a couple of lines will go for aspiration from Sri Aurobindo. All sincere aspiration has its effect. Aspiration, definitely aspiration shows the image of a crown. We have quoted and read in Savitri. Aspiration shows the image of a crown, but desire, while coming to the point of desire, desire is the child has crying for bliss. Suppose one child is crying, and you go and distribute some intended thing like one biscuit, one cookery, one lays, or some sweets. Naturally it will be, this desire will go. But aspiration shows the image of a crown. Sri Aurobindo quotes, all sincere aspiration has its effect. Sincerity, that main term is sincerity. All sincere aspiration has its effect. Then Sri Aurobindo quotes, aspire intensely, but without impatience. This aspiration must come. This is a progressive step. So it is not likely that we are aspiring today immediately with no thought, without any second thought, within no time it will be fulfilled, because this yoga is a progressive. It is an ongoing process. So aspire intensely. Initially we have seen that is sincere aspiration. Here intense aspiration must be there, but without impatience. You must not be impatient. That is what the talk. There is no need of words in aspiration. While you are aspiring, you are going for aspiration, turning for aspiration, there must be no words. It can be expressed or unexpressed in words. So it is a totally subtle thing. A subtle thing that is that depends, relates to your consciousness. So there is no need of words in aspiration. It can be expressed or unexpressed in words. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes, the intensity of aspiration brings the intensity of experience. Experience and realization, these are most while proceeding for the sadhana. These are the most it is required. So this intensity of experience depends upon the intensity of aspiration. So this intensity, how intense is your aspiration, on that depends the intensity of experience. And by repeated intensity of experience, First is the intensity of aspiration. It brings the intensity of experience. This intensity of experience, by a repeated intensity of experience comes the change. So change depends upon the intensity of experience, and experience depends upon the intensity of experience depend upon the intensity of aspiration. And finally, we are going to have a quote, nice talk. If you are not constant in aspiration, consistency is first sincerity. Second, you have some you have we have had intense in aspiration. So again, repeated aspiration, repeated intensity, like these sort terms we have had while discussing. Now we are going this constant in aspiration. If you are not constant in aspiration, the nature will then sink back into the old lower ways. If you are not constant in aspiration, the nature will sink back into the old lower ways. So there not don't think that once I am pursuing this intense aspiration, then I will be I will be delinked. But this intensity, it must be a ceaseless, continuous process. Anyway, we are going for the next phase of discussion, really what we really want to discuss, and it is known the aspiration. That is it is like an arrow. Arrow means from the bow, it is flung upwards or flung ahead, so that it will hit the target. So like an arrow. Mother quotes beautifully, Mother explains beautifully here. Aspiration is like an arrow. Like this gesture, Mother shows, so you aspire. Want very earnestly to understand, know, enter into the truth. So aspire, Mother quotes, it is like an aspiration, like an arrow. Secondly, you must aspire. Third, want very essentially to understand, know, enter into the truth. To know, to understand, and to enter into the truth. Yes. And then with that aspiration you do this. So Mother shows some gesture shows. Your aspiration rises 3 times. Mother quotes, your aspiration rises 4 times, of course, sorry, 4 times. Your aspiration rises straight up, very strong. Then it strikes against the kind of, how you put it. So other course, you aspire, it is like an arrow. It is you if you once aspire, it rises and rises straight up, and where it hits strong, very strong, and then strikes against the kind of what really you in aspire, that depends, and it strikes there again. Lead which is there, hard like iron and intense, extremely thick, that arrow, that point, the pinpoint, that is lead, which is there, hard like iron and extremely thick, and it does not pass through. So what then we have to do? Then you say, see, what's the use of aspiring? Normally we quote, what is the use of aspiring? It brings nothing at all. I met with something hard and can't pass. That hard ground, it hits but actually can't penetrate. There itself we normally pronounce like it brings back nothing at all. It meets with something hard and can't pass, but don't get impatient. Mother is having a nice advice for you. But you know about the drop of water which falls on the rock. Just that bright example Mother has quoted. A drop of water which falls on a rock, and it ends up making a chasm. Drop of water, it has got no value to your understanding. It falls and falls and falls consistently. After you can find that a chasm is made. It cuts the rock from top to bottom. Just imagine. It cuts the rock from top to bottom. Your aspiration is a drop of water which, instead of falling, it rises. Don't imagine that chasm, from top to bottom, that hole is there. It is done in a day, not at all. Nothing like this. It is a continuous effort. It has taken time. So your aspiration is a drop of water which instead of falling rises. That aspiration, constant, unceasing, and intense. So many words we have already discussed in the beginning. So by dint of rising, when it rises, it beats, and three times. Like either that there itself, mother uses rises, used the term rises four times. Here beats and beats, and one day it makes a whole. It is not a one day it will make a whole, that day you don't know, but you have to have the consistent and continuous effort, intense aspiration, but without any failure, without any impatience. Nobody knows how long it will take, but it has been done. So many examples are put before you. By dint of rising, and when it makes a hole, suddenly it springs out from this lid and enters the immensity of light. It hits, makes a hole, and through that hole it enters in an immensity of light, and you say, how I understand. So it's like that. Then what happens? So one must be very persistent, very stubborn, and have an aspiration. For that, what will be expected from you, how we shall be. That's what mother wishes to explain. Be very persistent, very stubborn, and an aspiration which rises straight upwards, aspiration that rises straight forward, four times used. Then what happens? That is, which does not go roaming around here and there, striking all kinds of things. Straight it goes and strikes the target, the goal, the point. Only this to understand again three times is the mother course. Understand. Still there is a great term rises used, four times. Rises is mother quoted here, for four times. Then you can have beats. It is also used for the three times. So just take it in a that way, that symmetry, like how mother emphasizes on these terms. So to learn to know, to learn to know, not only know, to be. Again mother quotes, when one reaches the very top, at the image, aspiration shows the image of a crown that we have already shown. So mother here tries to explain, when one reaches the very top, there is nothing more to understand, nothing more to learn. One is, and it's when one is that one understands and knows. So the thing, it is there, it will be very much consistent in knowing. So again we can go for the term. Normally what comes before us, find that something. Something which will change the whole significance of life. That something sincere, it can be done simply by sincere surrender, aspiration. Open a sealed door in us. Sealed door, you have to open it. There must be a sincere aspiration from our side, and something which will change the whole significance of life, reply to all our questions, solve all our problems, and lead us to the perfection we aspire without knowing it. Now, to that reality, which is alone can satisfy us and gives us lasting joy, equilibrium, and strength in and the life. So it is a great term. We have to take in for granted. We know. That's what I will try to quote it again. Something which can change the whole significance of life. Second, reply to all questions, solve all our problems. Then what happens, and lead us towards the perfection we aspire without knowing it. That perfection we don't know. Again, the reality which alone can satisfy us and give us a lasting joy and joy, equilibrium, strength, life. So all this is, you have heard many a time, but here you have you have heard it. Oh, there are even some here who are so used to it that for them it seems to be something which is drinking a glass of water or opening a window to let the sunlight. So we have tried a little, but now we are going to be to try seriously. Something we know, something we understand, but actually that seriousness now it has to it has to be developed. Mother course, what is the starting point? The starting point to want it, truly want it, need it. The next step, this is want it and need it. The next step, to think above all that a day comes very quickly when all is unable to think anything else. So that is the one thing which comes, and then one formulates one's aspiration, lets the true prayer spring up from the heart. Then actually the systematically will go. One formulates one's aspiration. Second, lets the true prayer spring up from one's heart. Then the prayer which expresses sincerity is, of the need, and finally then one will see that happens. So these are the steps. Formulates aspiration. Second, two prayers sprang up from one's heart. Third, prayer which expresses the sincerity of the need. Then one can see, with that happens. Something will happen. Surely something will happen. For each one, it will take a different form. So to find something that is the story of the time that has to be quenched. Bande Matram.